path. Having explored the chilling physical spaces and sensed the lingering human anguish, your journey now turns towards the truly inexplicable. You're in a part of the asylum that feels particularly charged, where the veil between worlds seems thinnest. This is where the documented paranormal investigations come into play, where modern technology attempts to capture what history has only whispered. Imagine a team of ghost hunters, armed with EMF meters, thermal cameras, and voice recorders, venturing into these very halls at the dead of night. They aren't just looking for shadows. They're looking for evidence, for proof that the suffering imprinted on these walls extends beyond the living. A mainstream historical fact is that many abandoned asylums have become hotspots for paranormal investigators. Drawn by their dark histories and the sheer volume of documented tragic deaths and intense, emotional suffering that occurred within them, it's almost a pilgrimage for those seeking tangible proof of the afterlife. You can almost hear the hushed voices of the investigators, the sharp beeps of their equipment, the sudden spikes on a digital readout. They're searching for something beyond rational explanation, hoping to record a disembodied voice, capture an anomalous temperature drop, or witness an object move without cause. You might feel a sudden, unexplainable chill, even though the room temperature hasn't changed, or hear a faint, distant whisper that sounds almost like a name. Honestly, if I were an investigator, my main equipment would be a very large, very comfortable pillow, because if anything shows up, I'm just going to try and sleep through it. You shine your flashlight into a particularly dark corner, and for a split second, you think you see a flicker of movement just at the edge of your vision. A quirky tidbit from many paranormal investigations in asylums involves the frequent recording of electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, disembodied voices, often faint and difficult to discern, captured on audio recordings when no audible sounds were present. These voices often seem to respond to direct questions, sometimes providing cryptic answers or repeating phrases from the past. Imagine asking, "Who are you?" and hearing a faint, tortured whisper respond, "Lost." Historians and perhaps psychologists still argue whether these documented ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena are genuine evidence of residual hauntings or intelligent spirits, or if they are products of suggestion, pareidolia, or clever psychological tricks of the mind in highly atmospheric environments. The debate continues, leaving the ultimate question unanswered. You stand in the silence, and you can almost feel the presence of unseen eyes watching you, perhaps intrigued by your intrusion, perhaps resentful. The asylum, even empty, still holds its secrets, and some of them may not be entirely dormant. Your journey through the asylum, now steeped in its dark history and unsettling phenomena, forces you to confront a deeply troubling aspect of its existence, the enduring legacy of stigma. This isn't just about the physical structures, but about the societal attitudes that created and sustained them. You're now contemplating the unseen walls built around those deemed insane, long before they ever set foot in this place. Imagine living in an era when mental illness wasn't understood as a health condition, but as a moral failing, a punishment, or a sign of weakness. The pervasive fear and misunderstanding often led to ostracism, shame, and ultimately, forced confinement. A mainstream historical fact is that the social stigma associated with mental illness played a profound role in the creation and operation of asylums, driving families to hide away their afflicted members and society to demand institutions that kept them out of sight and out of mind. These places were not just hospitals, they were repositories for societal discomfort. You can almost feel the weight of judgment, the crushing burden of being labeled mad, stripped of your voice and agency. The very act of admission often meant a complete severance from your former life, a deliberate erasure. It's a chilling thought, that simply having a mind that worked differently could lead to such a profound loss of self. You might imagine the whispered conversations, the averted glances, the sheer terror of families trying to conceal a loved one's struggle. Honestly, it makes you grateful for modern understanding, even if we still have a long way to go. Back then, a bad day might get you a lobotomy. You walk past what might have been a small, barred window, and you wonder if the faces that looked out were not just filled with despair, but with a burning sense of injustice. A quirky tidbit from the annals of social history reveals that some families would go to extraordinary lengths to officially declare a relative insane even if their symptoms were mild or situational, simply to avoid the social disgrace of having them visible in the community. Imagine a daughter being committed by her parents for merely defying their wishes, all under the guise of mental instability. It highlights the incredible power of societal pressure and the terrifying vulnerability of individuals. Historians still argue whether the extreme methods and long-term confinement of the asylum era were truly driven by a belief in their therapeutic value, or if they were largely a reflection of a society's desperate attempt to control and punish deviance from perceived norms rather than truly heal. The debate underscores the slow, painful evolution of mental health care. You feel a quiet anger simmering beneath the cold dread, a righteous indignation for the countless lives unjustly imprisoned and utterly forgotten, their only crime being a mind that wandered from the path society deemed normal. The echo of their forgotten struggles still permeates these walls, a silent plea for understanding. Your journey through the silent, decaying corridors of this ancient asylum now draws to a close, but the questions it raises, the mysteries it harbors, remain very much alive. You stand in what feels like the central nexus of the institution, a place where all the despair, the fear, the forgotten lives seem to converge. The air is thick with a heavy, lingering silence, punctuated only by your own breath. Imagine all the stories that these walls have absorbed, the desperate pleas, the unheard screams, the quiet surrenders. A mainstream historical fact is that, despite decades of research and forensic analysis, many patient records from these older asylums remain incomplete, illegible, or entirely missing, leaving vast gaps in our understanding of individual lives and the full scope of the institution's practices. It's a frustrating void, ensuring that many narratives remain forever untold. You feel the weight of these unanswered questions pressing down on you. Who were the people buried in those unmarked graves? What truly happened in the padded cells and the treatment rooms there? Did any of the patients ever truly find peace? Or are there echoes forever trapped within these crumbling confines? It's a chilling thought that the ultimate horror is not knowing, being left with only fragments and shadows. Honestly, if this place had a comments section for its history, it would be filled with way more questions than answers. You cast one last look around, your flashlight beam dancing across peeling paint and shattered glass. A quirky tidbit, often reported by those who frequent these abandoned sites, is the inexplicable phenomenon of phantom smells, the faint scent of antiseptic, old tobacco, or even fresh bread perhaps, from a long-gone kitchen, which appear and disappear without any discernible source. These merely tricks of the mind, or sensory echoes from a past that refuses to fade. It's a subtle reminder that the asylum might still be living in its own way. Historians and paranormal investigators still argue whether the unanswered questions surrounding asylums are simply a result of poor record-keeping and scientific limitations of the past, or if there is an inherent, unresolvable mystery to places of such concentrated suffering. Here, the debate continues, ensuring that the chilling presence of these institutions endures. You feel a final, cold touch on your skin, a whisper in your ear that sounds like a sigh, or perhaps a warning. The asylum has shared its secrets, but only those it chooses to reveal. Its true horrors may forever remain hidden, lingering in the shadows. Waiting for the next curious soul to listen, the light begins to fade outside. The last vestiges of daylight retreating from the broken windows, the old building settles, groaning softly, as if exhaling the last of its secrets into the encroaching darkness. You feel the stories, the sorrows, the lingering unease of this place begin to recede, but the echoes, they'll remain. Perhaps a faint whisper in the quiet of your room, or the fleeting scent of something unidentifiable. The asylum's legacy isn't just in its crumbling stones, but in the unsettling questions it leaves behind, stirring just beneath the surface of your own mind. It's a quiet dread that lingers, a subtle chill that may accompany you as you drift off.